The Galactic Scientific Consortium's halls buzzed with the familiar hum of translation matrices as delegates from 47 species gathered for the quarterly review. At the far end of the crystalline amphitheater, a lone human sat quietly, her fingers dancing across a primitive datapad, while the assembly's most prestigious minds discussed the universe's fundamental constants. Dr. Sarah Chen had grown accustomed to the sideways glances and barely concealed amusement her presence generated. The Zephyrian's tentacles would twitch in what passed for laughter whenever she asked her questions. The silicon-based Krolex would emit those grinding sounds that their translators rendered as sighs of exasperation. Even the diplomatically minded Altarians couldn't hide their bewilderment at humanity's recent admission to the consortium. "The primitive species wishes to speak again," announced High Researcher Vexhai, his compound eyes reflecting the chamber's bioluminescent lighting. "Perhaps she has another curious observation to share." The word curious dripped with condescension. In the 300 years since the consortium's establishment, scientific progress had followed predictable patterns. Species would join, contribute their specialized knowledge, and settle into comfortable research niches. The universe's mysteries had been cataloged, its laws codified, its secrets filed away in vast databases. Then the humans arrived. Sarah stood, her movements drawing attention not for their grace but for their peculiar intensity. While other species approached science with methodical precision, humans possessed something the galaxy had never encountered. An almost pathological need to poke at things that worked perfectly well already. "I've been reviewing our recent dark matter studies," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation field. "The melody detection arrays show consistent readings across 17 sectors, and the Zephyrian gravitational models predict particle behavior with 99.97% accuracy." Murmurs of approval rippled through the assembly. Finally, the human was acknowledging established science. "But I noticed something odd in the error margins." The murmurs died. "There's a pattern in the 0.03% discrepancy. It's barely detectable, but it's there. The anomalies cluster around systems with binary pulsars, and they occur in 17-minute cycles." Vexhai's translator crackled with static that suggested profound irritation. "Dr. Chen, these readings fall well within acceptable parameters. The consortium established dark matter detection protocols 4 centuries ago. Your curiosity about statistical noise is precisely why your species requires supervision. But what if it's not noise?" Sarah's eyes lit up with the expression that had made her colleagues back home simultaneously admire and worry about her. "What if we're missing something?" The Krolex delegate, a mountain of living crystal named Thargon, resonated a sound like grinding glass. His translator rendered it as dismissive laughter. "Young species always believe they can revolutionize established science. Your curiosity is endearing, but ultimately pointless. The universe's laws are known." Sarah nodded, politely, but her fingers never stopped moving across her datapad. For the next 6 months, while the consortium continued its dignified, predictable research, she dove into the anomalies with the fervor that had once driven her ancestors to sail off the edges of maps. She requisitioned sensor time on obsolete equipment that other species had discarded centuries ago. She cross-referenced data patterns that the consortium's AI systems had automatically filtered out as irrelevant. She asked questions that made perfectly logical beings uncomfortable. What if our fundamental assumptions are wrong? What if we're not seeing the whole picture? What if the universe is stranger than we think? The breakthrough came on a Tuesday, Earth reckoning, since no other species cared enough about the passage of time to maintain such precise calendars. The 17-minute cycles weren't random fluctuations in dark matter readings. They were signals. More specifically, they were interference patterns created by dark matter particles colliding with something that shouldn't exist according to current physics. A fifth fundamental force that operated on scales so vast it had been invisible to conventional detection methods. Sarah's discovery didn't just add a footnote to existing knowledge. It shattered the theoretical foundations that 47 species had spent millennia building. The complete understanding of physics that had made the galaxy's greatest minds complacent was revealed to be a beautiful, elegant, and utterly incomplete description of reality. When Sarah presented her findings to the consortium, the silence stretched for exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. She timed it. Vexhai was the first to speak, his compound eyes dimming with what his species expressed as profound shock. This changes everything we know about stellar formation, galactic dynamics, even the fundamental nature of space-time itself. It gets weirder, Sarah said, her grin threatening to split her face. The fifth force appears to have memory-like properties. It's not just affecting matter, it's learning from it. The universe might be more like a vast neural network than a clockwork mechanism. Thargon's crystalline structure rang like a bell, his translator struggling with harmonics that suggested existential crisis. 400 years of research in our most fundamental theories. Still valid, Sarah interrupted. Just incomplete. Think of it this way. You've been studying a beautiful painting, but you were only looking at the red and blue wavelengths. Now we get to see what happens when we add green. The Altarian delegate, renowned for their philosophical nature, slowly extended one of their elongated limbs in a gesture of profound respect. Dr. Chen, how did you know to look where no one else thought to look? Sarah's expression grew thoughtful. That's just what we do. Humans have this thing about wondering what if. We can't help ourselves. We see something that works perfectly and immediately start wondering what happens if we break it, or turn it upside down, or ask it questions it's never been asked before. She gestured to her datapad, where new questions were already forming. This discovery just raises 1,000 more mysteries. What other forces are we missing? How does the universe's memory work? Are we living inside something that thinks? The chamber erupted in what could only be described as excited chaos. Species that had spent centuries in comfortable intellectual silos suddenly realized that the universe was far stranger and more wonderful than they had dared imagine. 6 months later, the Galactic Scientific Consortium had restructured entirely. The new protocols included a mandatory human question period in every research session, where established assumptions could be challenged without ridicule. Sarah found herself leading a new department called Fundamental Assumption Review, though she preferred to call it professional troublemaking. As she prepared for another day of making the galaxy's greatest minds slightly uncomfortable, Sarah reflected on humanity's peculiar gift. Other species had given the galaxy mathematical precision, technological marvels, and philosophical wisdom. Humans had given it something far more dangerous, the willingness to ask, but what if we're wrong? And in a universe that had forgotten how to surprise itself, that curiosity had become the most revolutionary force of all.